Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, November 10th from the San Antonio Express News. My name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect mostly cloudy skies and a high of 80 degrees in San Antonio today. Don't expect the weather to change soon either. The National Weather Service is predicting a warm, dry November for San Antonio. Today, Bexar County commissioners will review priorities for the 2021 legislative session, such as considering allocating more than $2 million in federal aid for those affected by the coronavirus and take action affecting growth on the far west side. We'll have it all covered at expressnews.com. Also, our Talking San Antonio series has 2 events this week. Join us online Wednesday for a conversation with Brigadier General Caroline M. On Thursday, our conversation is with U.S. Representative Will Hurd, a 3-term congressman from Helotes. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. Hotel Thompson San Antonio, the first new luxury hotel in the city in more than 5 years, is scheduled to open downtown on January 27th. The 20-story hotel on the Riverwalk near the Tobin Center for the Performing Arts will feature 162 rooms and 33 suites and charge some of the highest room rates in San Antonio. The city's hospitality industry will likely still be struggling when Hotel Thompson opens its doors. Many business travelers are staying home, and San Antonio's convention business is nearly at a standstill. You can find a closer look at the building at expressnews.com. For most travelers, flying is off limits during the pandemic, but at least a few aviation nerds are so desperate to experience airports and flying again, they're willing to fork over big bucks to eat inside a parked airplane. A Singapore Airlines offering sold out on 4 weekends. Outcries from environmentalists recently ended another venture at the airport, flights to nowhere. The flights took off and landed several hours later at Singapore's Jewel Changi Airport. Jewel Changi Airport is rated by some frequent flyers as one of the world's best. In the US, too, there are also some people who can't stay away from the airport even if they aren't boarding a plane. Randy Diamond is one of those people. He explains the phenomenon in this week's Wary Traveler column. The Alazan courts have stood on San Antonio's west side for 80 years, housing thousands of families over the decades and providing them with a lifeline to rental homes within financial reach. But the decades of neglect have meant that the buildings have fallen into disrepair, spurring the San Antonio Housing Authority to start the process to eventually tear down the complex. Both people for and against the demolition agree on one thing. San Antonio's oldest and largest public housing community is outdated and desperately needs improvements. But San Antonio Housing Authority's decision to bulldoze public housing has spurred a heated debate. Affordable housing advocates argue that San Antonio Housing Authority's current plan to replace the building with a mixed-income development will price out many of the 1,200 residents of the Aslan Courts' 501 units. Marina Starleaf-Riker explains the numbers and the history of the apartments in her latest story. Elena Ayala writes, quote, "So many transformative moments in modern U.S. history have united us in front of our televisions. In times of terror and disaster, as well as victory and pride, we've been brought together while apart, watching the same images and hearing the same words at the same time. Just as we did in witnessing Vice President-elect Kamala Harris shatter an enormous glass ceiling Saturday. If only briefly, these teachable TV moments have unified us and created libraries of personal memories. They're reflections of who we are." Ayala reflects on some of those moments, including the most recent one, in her latest column. San Antonio officials report 400-plus new coronavirus cases as positivity rates rise for the 3rd straight week. The positivity rate, which reflects the proportion of people testing positive for the virus each week, has risen 8.4%, up from 7.7% last week and 4.9% in early October. You can check out our timeline of coronavirus events at expressnews.com. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside your Express News subscription. Today, Texas attorneys will urge the Supreme Court to strike down the Affordable Care Act amid reports that more Texans are seeking the health insurance offered under the law during the pandemic. Several prominent Texas Republicans continue to refrain Monday from acknowledging Joe Biden's presidential victory, with some pushing unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud and others remaining elusive on the results. You may not notice the change for a while yet, but the university health system has started to streamline its brand by dropping "system" from its name. A detective in the San Antonio Police Department served a 7-day suspension this year after disobeying an order from a deputy chief not to contact his estranged girlfriend who had accused him of assault. A man who pleaded guilty earlier this year to a charge of intoxication manslaughter for killing a woman in a multi-vehicle crash almost 2 years ago has been sentenced to 12 years in prison. So far this year, 21 counties in Texas, including Bexar County, have reported a trace of the West Nile virus within livestock, humans, or mosquitoes, according to data from the Texas Department of State Health Services. The leader of the Texas Republican Party has already declared war on the state representative who says he has the votes to become the next Speaker of the Texas House, fanning internal divisions within the upper levels of state government. After an election season unlike any other, state legislators are preparing for a partisan battle over laws that govern early voting, absentee ballots, and related matters during the upcoming legislative session. Saturday marked 20 years of at least one death a day on Texas roads. In that time, more than 70,000 people have died, a bleak milestone in a long, simmering safety crisis that lawmakers and agencies have pledged to stop but have barely slowed in the past 2 years. A candidate seeking re-election to a seat on the new Braunfels ISD board has filed a complaint with the Texas Secretary of State's office after county officials acknowledged the contest didn't appear on some eligible voters' Election Day ballots. San Antonio-based Biglari Holdings Incorporated, Steak and Shake's parent company, earned $21.1 million on $101.8 million in revenue in the last quarter, thanks to almost $27.6 million in investment gains. San Antonio's Clear Channel Outdoor Holdings Incorporated lost $136 million in the third quarter as the advertising market continued to stumble from the coronavirus pandemic, according to a company report on Monday. After 2 positive COVID-19 tests within the UTSA athletic department forced the postponement of last week's football game against Rice, Coach Jeff Traylor said Monday he's hopeful Saturday's matchup against UTEP will proceed as scheduled. Innovation is underway every day at Can Opener Labs. On extremely hot days, you'll find the co-founder, Drew Plaquette, in his business wear: t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops. The traditional businessman suit and tie and sitting in a cubicle is not his thing. From a giant drone to a pneumatic-powered device to crush cans, it's not unusual to see the bearded creator tinkering with potential products inside his 1,600-square-foot lab near the San Antonio International Airport. Nor is it unusual to see him wrangle his rooster, Mr. Biggs, from amid a jumble of wires, components, and circuits in his office. It's all just Plaquette being himself. Vincent T. Davis has his story at expressnews.com. In Texas, ground beef and chunks of chuck roast or brisket are the basis for most chili recipes. But you can substitute the beef with ground chicken, turkey, or pork in almost any recipe. And you can cook it in a variety of ways, from the stovetop to the Dutch oven over a live fire or in a slow cooker. This week, Chuck Blunt brings you some universal tips for chili season. Writer and performer Jesus Valles confronts some painful experiences in Undocuments, a solo show about immigration and machismo. Valles' show will be streamed Thursday through Sunday as part of Teatro Audaz's season of solo works. A Christmas drag show featuring some of the most well-known stars from RuPaul's Drag Race will perform 4 shows in December at a makeshift drive-in at Ingram Park Mall. Wyatt Beagle, a Steel senior quarterback, accounted for 6 touchdowns at the Knights' 42-27 victory against Wagner. The win helped Steel climb in our latest Express News area rankings. The Spurs don't necessarily need another point guard, but Alabama speedster Kira Lewis might be too good to pass up. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing for Tuesday, November 10th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.